What's up, squad? This is Brandon from the band Two Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, I wanted to touch base and talk on some communications going across social media that I came across. And it's around President Trump's assertion that if South Africa um, were to take steps to confiscate land, so let's level set first, right? I believe it was last month, that South Africa passed a bill. So, as everybody knows, South Africa went through, it's a phenomenally beautiful country with an absolutely magnificent history. And a lot of that has to do to its great diversity, which has caused a lot of blessings and pain points. And one of those pain points was white minority rule through apartheid, which only ended in 1994. And since 1994, the party of one of its founding fathers of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, the ANC, have been ruling South Africa. Needless to say, ANC, South Africa is still one country and is still an exceptional economy in Africa, but a lot of those are built upon wins that were incurred before ANC took power. South Africa is structurally, economically superior on the African continent. The ANC has benefited from that. Nevertheless, South Africa, the ANC has to deal with very real governance issues, many of which the ruling white minority has to deal with, and a lot of that has to deal with a nation of of tens of millions of people in poverty. Many of those, of course, being in Africa, are black. So the ANC, unfortunately, like so many charlatans, many have blamed a lot of their plight upon the whites, right? They have said the reason you are poor is because white people took your wealth. It's not because we haven't provided the opportunity for development, or allowed the market, or we haven't cultivated a culture that allows for this level of development. It's blame other people, elect us because we're not them. And we can get into the nuances of it all, but when you boil it all down, either the government creates results or it doesn't create results. And according to the people of South Africa, due to their frustrations with the economy of South Africa for the masses, they feel as though they're not getting results with the ANC. And the ANC, of course, is not going to take accountability. They are going to pass the buck. And one of the most recent examples of passing the buck is the introduction of a bill to confiscate land to address racial disparities within the country. Basically, this is a form of um, it's a form of severe authoritarianism. Of course, I'm a person that believes that so much of humans' advancement has rest on the ability of one to reap the benefits of their effort. If you work hard for something, you get the lion's share of the benefit. That motivates a person to want to build something. And human development is all about building and us standing on the shoulders of our ancestors and what they've laid the foundation with. So this has happened in Zimbabwe. Hey, nowhere in the world is this a great model to replicate. In principle alone, it is egregious. The concept, and it happens, you can say, with eminent domain within America, but just this concept of going and taking people assets, I just find to be an extreme. That okay, there may be instances where this may occur, but I think they should be few and far between. And in fact, I would encourage more of a situation where you saw that there was a disparity to try to encourage people. What the government should go encourage South Africans that have, because supposedly the white minority still holds 70% of the economic power of the country. So the government should go and encourage them, develop the stock market, create more opportunities to try to induce these companies to open their doors for investment for the people. But that is very high minded. right? That's a conversation you have to talk about growth, development. It's hard to have a conversation with people that want a paycheck now to alleviate their pains now. And truthfully, that's just not how economics work well. You can get a paycheck now, but guess what? People are going to adjust to the situation. So the first thing that's going to happen when you start snatching up wealthy white South Africans' property is they're going to just take all their property, put it in European banks. So they probably have a significant portion in European banks right now, not African banks, because they don't trust the government of the country. So anyway, this bill was signed, and of course, Trump, you can say it's because of his right hand man. One of his close associates right now is Elon Musk, who has a South African background, and comes out and say, South Africa, I'm going to cut funding, whatever that means. Supposedly, South Africa isn't that heavily reliant on U.S., but just as Trump just throwing out something, I think he was just throwing out something to see what sticks. But what frustrated me is how unnecessary it was and how condescending it was, especially after seeing what has just happened in Israel Palestine, right? Where you have Israelis just straight up leveling Gaza. South African government has not leveled none of these the areas that belong to the white minority. Now there's conspiracies which may or may not be founded, that may or may not be true. Farmers being killed, etc., etc. But this is like for Trump to just, he comes to Israel, he goes to Egypt and Jordan, like this will be the equivalent, right? He goes after Israel levels Gaza, and he say Egypt, Jordan, take in these Palestinians. That'd be equivalent of Washington, South Africa, right? Liquidate white areas, and then go into Europe and say, hey, you guys need to take in these European migrants out of South Africa. Like, no, he wants to assert the white South African state property rights, which is no place at all for an American. I don't agree with what the South Africans are doing. I think South Africa has been blessed, or they have been given an unfortunate fortune. Like it or not, Europeans landed in South Africa, one of the most extreme places of the earth in comparison to the center of the great integrated civilizations 600 years ago, 500 years ago. South Africa is on the edge of Africa. It's the southernmost tip of Africa. It was least close to the great markets of trade, and South Africa was able to benefit because the Middle East was closed off, and merchants crossed across the Cape of Good Hope to get to Asian markets. And this situation introduced the European to South Africa because of its hospitable climate. And the Europeans that settled there gave their all. They gave their heart and all to South Africa. You can tell, and this is what I tell people, like, when you hear Afrikaner talk about South Africa, like, it's more about, you can hear the love they have in their voice. Whether you think they have a place in South Africa, which I have no contest, right? I have no contest with these people that's been living in South Africa for 500 years. So these people have built South Africa. They started families in South Africa. They invested in South Africa. As far as I'm concerned, they're South African. From the outside looking in, they are South African to me. Like, these people on generations on generations on generations. Like, for me to try to take away their Africanness is as if someone wants to take away my Americanness, which is completely absurd. It's completely absurd. So these people have been longer in Africa than my people have been in America, by the way. So it's not as though I have this gripe against the white minority. I actually think that this is backward, and South Africa should, like I said, they had the unfortunate fortune of these European landing there and bringing great levels of development to the country, which raised the bar of competition. This is why South Africa, although not the most populous or largest country in Africa, is one of the most, if not the most developed country within Africa. It's because they benefited greatly from this happenstance. And to spit in the face of history. Now you have a situation, right? The country wanted to unify. And the white minority is worried that, okay, we're going to unify, But they don't want that because now their culture is in threat, because now they're going to be subject to African rule. And the country stayed together. It didn't split into a bunch of states. And as of now, things have remained cohesive, all things considered. But I think for the South African government to try to exploit past grievances in such a heinous way, in a blunt way, is not let's facilitate the education and technological advancement of our people so that they can acquire wealth. They said, oh, let's go find the rich people and take their stuff, which is absolutely heinous. So although I don't agree with it, I know I have no place telling South Africa what they should be implemented. I can make suggestions. I can say, hey guys, look at the world. This is how it happened. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? But this is their country at the end of the day. And I think even if they was to implement this is going to open up the opportunity for a more open-minded and accepting African country to bring in this talent and this capital to develop their country. This is how you develop. You don't go around stealing people's stuff. If you don't believe me, ask the Second World. Ask the Soviet Union, who stands alone now as Russia. Ask them, Russia's alone now in this world. It's them, the North Koreans and Belarus. How is that an aspiration? So you can see what communism does. It destroys great nations. Look at Cuba. Look at Venezuela. So this idea of the government taking land, but for Trump to come out, I just thought it was disgusting, truthfully. Because he has no place. He has no place to speak on these African affairs. And he has no place to talk about a continent which he dismissed many of the nations as shitholes. Quote unquote shitholes. He has no place. And this is what I don't like. And I think this is what really gets under my skin. It's certain traits I don't like, right? One of them, I don't like fanboys. And Trump attracts fanboys. Everything he does is right. These people have no critical thinking. All because Trump says it is right. And that's why I try not to get caught up in the politics of it all. Because I'm not a group thinker. I believe something is justified because it in itself is justified, not because of the person that does it, right? Trump does this, that, and the other, and his supporters are blinded, and then they support it. And I'm like, how are you a African descent, and you supporting this man talking down to an African country, basically disrespecting their sovereignty, saying do what I say or else? That's odd. That's odd to me, because he'll talk down to that country. He'll talk down to you, in my opinion. And another thing I don't like when somebody says they have negative ill will towards you, right? And because Africa, I've shown the map where it shows how little American presidents visit Africa. It's treated with antipathy at best, apathy at worst. American presidents kind of disregard Africa to some land of benevolent exclusion. They're like, oh, we'll let Africans do what they do, as long as they don't mess with our interests. Excuse me. But I find this to be absolutely ludicrous. He has nothing positive to say. But the moment something happens that he's not on board with, he's on Twitter. And it's not even the worst thing in Africa. That's the crazy part, right? Are we not even talking about what's going on in Sudan and the number that the MENA states are doing on there? And they're flattening beautiful cartoon, or the pillaging and the atrocities being committed in Darfur. No, mum's the word. Trump says nothing about this, right? He doesn't talk about the slave trade, the active slave trade that's occurring in Libya, in Mauritania and Libya. Doesn't talk about this. Doesn't want to talk about how we can come up with ideas to create a stronger, more integrated, reliable Congo. And I don't expect him to, because why do he want other people to win? That's not his team. But I'm like, if you don't got nothing to say on the positive side, it annoys me you feel as though you need to express your thoughts on the negative side. Like, if you ain't got no solution, if you don't have any solutions, why? You're just putting out bad ether. And you know what? It is what it is at a certain point. But it's a trait that I find to be unbecoming at minimum. So it's a lot to go on. But I'll end it on this. Africa, and I include myself in these things. I'm including myself in this conversation as a child of Africa. Africans need to stop playing because nobody's playing with them. You know, it's a lot of shucking and jiving, a lot of goofery going on. These leaders are absurd. I don't know. Their shopping sprees, the neglect of their people, the lack of interest. And I understand Africa has a human problem. I am a descendant of an African human problem. I am a descendant of an African selling another African, right? So I understand Africa has a human problem that won't be solved overnight because of the culture. But at some point, Africa's gonna have to realize nobody's playing with them. I think some countries get it. Ethiopia being one, Rwanda being one. That nobody's playing with these guys. And I have not heard anything from the African Union saying, okay, guys, let's meet. Oh, no, let's go. We're going to Goma right now. We're going to meet in Goma. We're going to figure this out, and we're going to try to get a solution. There's no leadership. And then Ramaphosa, poor Ramaphosa, he just feeling it. I don't know what he's there for. You can tell when it's a leader in the room. You can tell when it's a leader in the room. So I'm going to continue to watch these stories. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments below. Whether you agree, disagree with me, I'd love to hear both sides. Like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.